Imagine running barefoot on ice, not as a stunt, but as a skill you can actually learn. Sounds impossible, right? That's exactly why this story changes everything.
All right, let's just jump right in. We're going to talk about a guy who seems to completely defy human biology. Someone who treats the coldest places on Earth like his own personal playground. This is the story of Wim Hof, aka the Iceman, and how his whole approach just might shatter everything you thought you knew about your own limits.
I mean, that's the big question, isn't it? How in the world is any of this possible? It sounds like something straight out of a comic book, a legit superpower. But what we're about to find out is that the answer is way more interesting and honestly a lot closer to home than you'd ever imagine.
To really get a sense of what we're dealing with, just look at some of his achievements. We're talking running a half marathon barefoot in the Arctic at minus 22 degrees, or swimming almost the length of a football field under a thick sheet of ice, climbing Mount Kilimanjaro in nothing but a pair of shorts. It's insane. This is the kind of stuff legends are made of, and it's exactly why they call him the Iceman.
And this quote from his co-author Justin Rosales just nails it. It's so easy to look at this and just write it off as some kind of crazy circus trick, right? Because you can't imagine doing it yourself. But the whole point of this story is that it's not a trick. It's a method. Yeah, a really tough one, but a method that, believe it or not, can be learned.
And that's our cue to bring in the second major player in this story. Because, to really understand the master, you gotta meet the apprentice. He's our way in. He's the regular guy, the one who, like us, can't imagine doing any of this stuff.
So, meet Justin Rosales. When he first found out about Wim Hof, he was just a college student. Not an extreme athlete, not a thrill seeker, just a guy who stumbled onto a YouTube video of the Iceman. And he got hooked on this idea, this wild thought of being able to just generate your own heat and walk around in the cold.
And this comparison just paints the perfect picture, doesn't it? On one side, you've got Wim, the master, totally in his element in the most brutal cold. And on the other, you've got Justin, the apprentice, whose first try at this stuff was just as miserable as you'd think. He talks about fumbling for his keys with totally numb fingers, that biting pain of the cold, a feeling we all know. That gap between them is everything, because it shows the path from totally ordinary to, well, extraordinary.
Okay, so how do you cross that gap? How do you go from numb fingers to running barefoot on ice? This is where we get into the how. It's the philosophy behind unlocking what Wim calls our inner fire.
So here's the absolute key takeaway. The whole argument is that we all have this ability just sitting there, dormant, inside of us. Think about it. Our modern lives are so comfortable, so temperature-controlled, that we've just forgotten what our bodies are capable of. This method isn't about getting a new power. It's about waking up an ancient one that we let fall asleep. According to Wim, this is the secret sauce. It's not about being the toughest person in the room or just gritting your teeth. It's all about creating this incredibly deep, conscious link between your mind and your body. The mind says go, and the body, once it's trained, has the power to respond in ways we just don't think are possible anymore. So what does that mind-body connection actually look like in practice? Well, the method itself is built on a surprisingly simple framework. It all comes down to three core ideas, the three pillars. Let's break them down. Pillar number one is the cold itself, cold exposure. Now, the method doesn't treat cold as the enemy. It's a teacher. You use it as a tool, a controlled stress to train your body. When you hop into cold water, all these tiny little muscles in your circulatory system squeeze tight. Then when you get out, they relax. It's basically like taking your entire vascular system to the gym, making it stronger and way more efficient at regulating your temperature.
Pillar 2 is the engine that drives the whole thing, conscious breathing. It's this specific technique of taking these deep, powerful breaths, then holding. What this does is it temporarily changes your body's chemistry. You're flooding yourself with oxygen, which gives you this surge of energy, and even gives you influence over your autonomic nervous system. The part that controls things you're not supposed to be able to control, like your immune response. In one famous study, they literally showed that Wim and people he trained could consciously fight off an infection. It's the kind of thing science used to say was impossible.
And finally, the third pillar, and this might be the most important one, it's conviction, the mindset. This is the glue that holds the other two together. The first time you get in an ice bath, every alarm in your brain is screaming, "Get out! Danger!" Conviction is the ability to calmly tell that voice, "Nope, I got this." It's about trusting your body and turning that panic reaction into pure focus. Without this mental piece, the other two were just really uncomfortable.
So you take the cold, you take the breathing, you take the mindset, and you put them all together. What happens? Well, you start to see this incredible transformation, a journey that goes way beyond what we think our limits are.
And that brings us right back to Justin's journey. It's the perfect example. He starts with a little bit of inspiration from a YouTube video. He moves on to some really painful experiments, and trust me, the book makes it clear how tough that was. But with dedication, he even flew to Poland to train with Wim. He finally gets to this moment of real achievement. He runs 5 kilometers barefoot, on ice. He actually crossed that massive gap.
And this quote from Wim just says it all, doesn't it? It perfectly captures that journey. The real walls aren't physical, they're the mental ones. They're the fear and the doubt that keep us stuck right where we are. So at the end of the day, that's the real lesson here. It doesn't matter if you ever plan on taking an ice bath. The idea is universal. Our perception of what's possible, that's what creates our reality. What we think is a hard limit is usually just a story we've been telling ourselves.
So I'll just leave you with this to chew on. Yeah, the Iceman story is extreme for sure, but it kind of forces you to ask yourself, right? What are the perceived limits that might be holding you back in your life? What could happen if you decided to push on one of them? Just a little.
Do you think humans have untapped abilities, or is this just extreme discipline? I want your take in the comments, and subscribe if you enjoy stories that push the edge of what we think is possible.